So my mother remarried when I was 6 years old. She didn't know that she was married to someone that was abusive to me. Just consisted of everyday beatings. When I didn't think it could really get any worse, I was in the bath one day and my stepfather entered the bathroom and held my head underwater, and to the point I just didn't know if I was going to come back up or not. It was very unpredictable as well. I just didn't even know when it was going to happen. So, my name is Adam, and this is my story. It would have happened on a weekly basis, the holding under the head under the water. The beatings, however, consisted every day after school, and whenever my stepfather had time with me alone. Happy childhood memory would be before my mother married. My life was very family orientated. I never left my mother's side. We always did things together. I was actually raised in a Christian household as well. We were just close, me and my mother and my auntie and my grandmother and my grandfather as well. So I did come from a very loving family. Just to sort of be taken out of what I was used to and be put into a relationship where it was actually quite scary to live within. It was a big change for me, and I didn't feel accepted within my family anymore. I felt scared because I couldn't tell my mother what was going on, just because of the threats and stuff that he made, that if I told anyone it would be worse the next time it happened. And he'll just deny it anyway, and he'll tell them that I'm lying and stuff like that. He wasn't abusive towards my mother, never ever, which is why I was confused on why he was abusive towards me. Well, my feelings and how I viewed life was, I just didn't feel accepted. I felt like I had to mix in with a cool crowd and sort of hang out with the people that were doing bad things, just wagging school, being rebellious towards teachers, being violent towards other kids as well, to sort of make a name and a reputation for myself at school. Smoking marijuana. I was trying to have the reputation, no one can come to me and scare me. I wanted to have that reputation where I was the tough kid, the angry person. I suppose it was defense mechanism from what I was going through at home. I didn't want to suffer that anymore, or any more than I had to anyway. My feelings towards my stepdad were just hate and envy as well, because he had my mum. He'd taken my mum away from me, and I was full of hatred and anger. That's what that created in my life. So when I got introduced to drugs, I had a big fight with my stepdad, and it was actually the first time that I retaliated. The first time I retaliated, I got kicked out of home. And sadly, that's where my life of drug use started. I can actually clearly remember when my mum dropped me off to my grandmother's house, her saying to me, "Welcome home." So she was happy to have me there. So when I was 14, I got caught smoking marijuana at school. They let my nan know, and unfortunately I had to leave there. So that was when I started couch surfing from person to person's house. And then a friend's mother actually asked me if I wanted to move in there with them, and I could stay there, but she gave me a choice that if I was to stay there, that I had to finish my Year 10 certificate. And that was all good and all, but she didn't mind her son and I smoking marijuana overnight. So, I had a place to stay, but I was still stuck in addiction, smoking marijuana. So I was invited to have my 18th birthday at a bikie clubhouse. This night I was introduced to big blokes, women, and methamphetamine, a drug that made me feel better than I ever had before. A drug that made me forget all the hurt that I had ever experienced, and for the first time in a long time, I actually felt socially accepted. So from that night, I'd made a few friends. My life now consisted of working, hanging out with bikie mates, smoking marijuana, and taking methamphetamine. This actually led me into being a drug dealer as well, to start to support my habit. My drug use got much, much worse. This was a bad life, but I was so far stuck in it that it was sort of too late to get out. Then came the day that I wasn't able to get any speed and I was introduced to a much stronger form of methamphetamine called ice. This is where I actually started taking drugs intravenously. I thought I had already hit rock bottom, and I didn't think that addiction could get any worse, but I was wrong. I was pushing people away that just cared about me. I was stealing off people to support my habit. All I was chasing was that high that ice gave me, that escape from reality. I can honestly say today that ice is the most evil drug that I've ever experienced in my whole life. I met Danielle, and she had absolutely no idea what was going on in my life. That I was a drug dealer, that I was actually stuck in addiction, and that I was using drugs intravenously. So I did everything in my power that I could do to hide my addiction from Danielle. And the day came, Danielle was doing the washing, and she found needles in my pants pocket. Of course I denied it. You know, I was full of shame, I was full of guilt. That was a turning point in our relationship, because eventually I did admit it to her, thinking that she'd be able to keep me accountable for my drug use. She still loves me. She didn't love me any different after I had admitted it, but because now she knew, unfortunately, my drug use got a whole lot worse. I'd go out 8 or 9 days straight and not come home at all. The drug just blocked out all feelings and emotion. Eventually, Danielle fell pregnant, and we got a baby bonus of $10,000 because we had twins, and I spent the whole lot on ice. Danielle and I, not long after this, calculated that in just 12 months, I had spent $54,000 on ice. This was a massive turning point for me. I actually wanted to get clean. I was sick of the life I was living, sick of the people I was hanging around, and not only sick of ice, but sick of it controlling everything I did. It took me going in and out of detox over a period of 12 months and realizing that I needed full-time residential rehab. Danielle had given me an ultimatum. It was either her and the kids or the drugs. This is when I rang 180TC. So coming to the program, this is my second chance at life. You know, I wanted to be the father that I knew I could be, the partner that I knew I could be. I wanted to be drug-free. I didn't want to have to rely on any substances to battle with my feelings or you know, blank out my feelings. So being at 180TC, you know, I was supported. Now I look at this situation with my stepfather and, you know, what I went through, and this is something that 180TC taught me as well, was forgiveness is a big part of my life now. I have forgiven him. I don't hold any grudges against him. But for the first time in a long time, I saw my mother. She gave me the biggest hug, and she told me that she was proud of me, and you know, that just felt so good, you know, seeing her and her acknowledging me in that way. I've renewed my relationship with Danielle and the kids. I'm present as a father and partner. I'm learning how to be a good father. I'm no longer angry or that scared little boy that I once was. I haven't used drugs in over 2 years now. Through this whole process, I've found my real father, and we are beginning to form a new relationship. And the biggest change and strength in my life is God. Without God, I would never have been able to do this. I was sitting on my bed one day, looking at photos of my children, thinking of how much I love them. In that very moment, God told me that's how much He loves me. So I now work at 180TC as a transition coordinator, helping other guys transition into our program. Coming to 180TC is the best thing that I ever did, and I thank God for a place like 180TC.